Okay, back at it. Let's look at the SPY. Some interesting action today with these big earnings. We finally had a little bit of the sell-off gap down from this 3-day run. And as I was saying yesterday, we had a really nice setup in here on the 30-minute 7-day yesterday, and then after hours meta tanked, so then the SPY tanked, and then today we had this interesting consolidation here, similar to what it did yesterday afternoon prior to the meta earnings. We had the same kind of setup here. So we had the gap down, fade all the way into open, and then we grinded higher all day, which was kind of tricky action, because you're thinking, you get the gap down, you're thinking there's going to be some, maybe not necessarily, further selling, but you're not necessarily looking for a complete reversal spike all the way back to the highs. But then again, the way the market's been for the past probably 2 years, this is pretty typical. It's similar to what I was highlighting the other day for y'all in this, where it gapped, faded, rallied, gapped, faded, rallied. Same kind of situation here. Fade. It's maybe not necessarily the same setup, but it's the same kind of crazy activity, volatile, up and down, yo-yo activity. We have the big fade, scary candles, and now we roar all the way back up, and now we have after hours Microsoft. Let's look at the daily. We got Microsoft and I think Google. We have these two big after hours earnings winners, which now has sent the SPY right back through the roof at the top of this 3-day green run it put in prior to this move. So complete, quackery here. Really, this type of action really makes it difficult, and this is kind of why everyone always says you don't gamble on earnings. So this is a great example of that. I mean, if you're gonna try to guess on stuff like this, you're gonna be in a world of hurt. Let's run through a few of these names. There's not a whole ton of stuff tonight. I'm just gonna quickly scan through some of these names I've been talking about. I'm skipping RBLX. CGC, kind of interesting. It's going into that quiet consolidation phase. I said yesterday, we had this big move here, then we had this big move here, and I said yesterday, at these levels, you can't expect for it to continue to go forever without some sort of pullback. We didn't necessarily have that big pullback, but we had some sluggish activity here. So visually, I'm not in love with this, but it's still something that we're going to keep on radar. There was another one. What was the other one there? What was it? Was it Zim? Yeah, it was Zim. Zim, same situation. I said the other day when I pointed out this move and we had a big move. Then I said potential here. It tried to break out, then it faded. And I said, again, when you have a move this good, you can't expect it to continue to go forever without some sort of pullback. We then had a slight little fade here for the past 2 days, but now it's starting to gather itself here. And this has been a very strong name relative to the overall markets. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this kind of just totally, blow through this a 1170 zone up until the 12s. It kind of has that feeling. It's been strong. Has this nice moving average look that I've been talking about. So this is still probably the top watch. It's getting a little choppy. It's getting a little kind of dicey at these levels and with these visuals, but very strong name. So we're gonna keep an eye on that. Actually, Krispy Kreme put in a very interesting day. This here, as I've been saying, monthly 5-year. If you look back at this big volume day, we have this, but that's not exactly relevant at this time. But the next best thing, this second green day here, this very bottom wick here is 1280, okay? And if you bring it in here, this Krispy Kreme the other day, and I should have been more aware of this, this came right into 1285. I mean, you want to talk about risk reward? That's bottom line. That's bottom line entry right there. I should have been a little more aware of this. I did highlight that it was relatively weak while the SPY was making this move, so that was a bit of a turnoff. Ended up putting in a nice, it ended up putting in decent action here for sure. I mean, better than decent. This is a nice move, but it's starting to shape up here. I'm wondering if this is going to go for some more here. I mean, it's got a nice look, potentially 13, blow through 1320s up to 1340 neighborhood. So that's starting to shape up a bit. But again, with these earnings, it's kind of a coin toss. Tesla's hanging on. I'm not buying into this Tesla move though. I don't see that just shooting up like that. It seems too good to be true. Let me go through a couple more quick names here. There's really not a whole ton to talk about in terms of some of these names that I've been highlighting. We have, let me go through a few of these little cheapy high flyers. Let me check in on this INDO. Volume's starting to get pretty low, but still, I mean, I really don't like the way this looks, but it's one of those, yeah, actually, no, the volume's just too low. I don't see it. Let's check in on DJT. This one, I've been back and forth. At first, I was not interested because I think it's a little too crazy with the Trump news every 5 minutes. Then I started to think, you know what, I should start to really dial in because of that Trump effect. It causes, opportunity. But now as I've been watching it, again, I'm kind of thinking, I don't see it. I don't see the trade on this name. So I'm starting to lose interest on this one again, but I want to keep an eye on it just to keep kind of a pulse on that name. Reddit, another one, it just doesn't look too good. Actually, just remembered Rumble had this big move back in here. This was another one that was very frustrating. I struggled on this one. This actually, big picture, could really get going. And I feel like the overall theme of this stock could trend up in the future, with all these independent, free-speaking, content creators coming on and growing. This is one that we want to keep an eye on. What else do we have? The Macy's that I had talked about for a short. So far, it's kind of working. This one kind of fell off my radar, but it's probably quietly going to be a home run. What else did we have? Some of these, for whatever reason, I keep looking at this Alt M. I keep thinking, I really like these names that, you know, whether it's an IPO or some sort of name that has just come on the scene and it doesn't have a lot of previous, you know, history. Something about those, I feel like you can really narrow in on risk reward areas and put on good trades. So this Tesla EV sector wave, we really got to dial into this, because this could be the next big move. But all the smaller names besides Tesla, all these other names kind of look like shit. So kind of there's a little bit of a disconnect in that. Let's look at old Chewy. Old Chewy just keeps going down. This thing is just in the dumps. You know, that UAL, actually, this isn't really something I would, well, I mean, I could trade it, but I mean, just kind of interesting, the volume. But these airlines, just not even worth it. Let's look at this GoEv. See, what I tell you guys, you know, this is a headache. Still hasn't done anything. This, I believe, is going sympathy with that. Not enough volume, though. Kind of in a weird time at this moment. This Warby Parker, interesting name, interesting shape. I've been eyeballing this. This is a weekly 2-year. This is one of those situations where I don't believe in the company, but my eyes see an opportunity. And those are tough trades for me, because I'm torn between the two. Like this, to me, on the weekly 2-year, I see an opportunity setting up here. Because if you look, like I had showed you on a smaller time frame, this is a 60-minute 14 on ZIM. You see this nice flag that rips up? Well, if you look at Warby Parker on the weekly 2-year, it's a lot like that. A little bigger, but this is a weekly 2-year. So similar pattern as ZIM. Different time frames, of course, but still that pattern can really get going if you know, the wind's under its sails with the overall market and maybe a few other, whether it's news or what. But interesting look. Same concept here with Wayfair. I don't believe in the company. I don't feel good about buying it, but again, interesting look. Not as flaggy here as Warby, but you know, just you look at these big picture charts. I mean, it's hard to not think there's an opportunity there, but those are total back burners. But just two names that I've kind of been watching from a distance. Let's see, what else did I have? Anything good? Plug? No. Mankind I was looking at. I mean, a lot of these are just kind of down. There's not a whole ton of action here. Hub C, another headache. This is just like GoEv, headache, fade. Let's look at, was it Wolf? What was some of these Some of this Bitcoin. This coin is nuts. If you look back, I remember this one really hurts. If I remember looking at coin in here, and I'm thinking to myself, and to me it looked like, if you're into the technical analysis patterns, I was seeing a head and shoulders here. If you look at one, here's the left shoulder, then the head, then the right shoulder, and then of course it turns into the cup and handle here. And this is on a monthly 3-year. And I remember looking at that thinking, wow, that's so clean. Look at that, all the volume. It had everything going. And for whatever reason, I've been like a grandpa Bitcoin crypto guy, and I just didn't do anything. I just watched it, and I watched this whole run from 80 to, what was it, almost 300, and that was painful. But you know, I did see the opportunity. But you know, there's a difference between knowing and executing. That's a big one. So we continue on, continue the fight. MNMD, another, I think this is like a magic mushroom, cannabis. You know, just keep an eye on it. Just gotta stay active, keep watching everything, and stay ready. So that's what we will do until tomorrow.